in need of men who will be men. We are in need.
Hello, everybody. This is SP. Welcome to the formula. Um, Marquis is here with me. How are you, Marquis?
What's going on? I'm pretty good, man. Thanks for asking. Appreciate it.
Good. And we have the junior economist here, Guyesha Blackshear. I am so happy to have her. I have been wanting to talk to you for a while, I think since like February.
So you've been stalking us since then on social media.
We kind of have been stalking you for a while.
No, you have. Hold on, I'm saying that.
I am not mad at that.
Yeah. I just want to welcome you, and I think what you do is so important. And we like to do shows where we show Black people in ways that they aren't normally seen, because I believe if you see it, you'll be able to achieve it. And it's finding a Black economist, not only a Black economist, but a Black female economist, was like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. It's true.
So it is amazing that you are here. Can you tell people kind of where you're from and how that developed you into the person you are and what you decided to do with your life?
Yes, of course. So I want to say thank you all, first of all, for having me here. So just to start off with that. But as far as my background, I'm originally from Riverdale, Georgia. I grew up there, went to Riverdale High School, and then later I decided to pursue my economics degree at Spelman College. But before I did that, I was actually a dual degree engineering major until I took my first economics course, and I just kind of fell in love with like the discipline, because I'm just like, you see so many real world applications in which that the teachers are able to relate through equations as well as through real world case studies, and which is something in which I just was not connecting to when it came to science and things of that nature. And then so once I found out that I was more passionate about economics than traditional science fields, I decided to get my master's in it at Georgia State University. And then the reason why I decided to become primarily a Black female economist now is, number one, is due to the lack of representation, especially because like in my role and especially in like my previous job placements as well, the position in which that we hold as economists, we essentially kind of make rules to the world, because we're able to use our tools in order to justify policies that could either help the majority, help most, or empower minorities. So it was just more so me wanting to have a seat at the table. And I knew that this would give me tool set as well as the access in order to in a sense like exercise that power, and as well as to lead the way, and then hopefully like open the door to those who come behind me in order to like keep passing the torch. So that was that.
Can you actually explain what the third junior economist is? Like the definition of that? And that's a job, right? Or is that just a title? What is that?
Oh, so the junior economist is actually the platform in which I created in order to democratize the field of economics. So what I do is that I discuss current events, and as well as I break down complex economic concepts in order to make it more palatable to the masses. And so with that being said, that comes in the form of me, like, for example, one of my most recent posts was explaining in layman's terms what did one of the most prestigious economic forecasts predict about what's going to happen in the middle of 2023, which they are saying is a recession. However, because me coming from the background of being an academic as well, I'm able to read through the language and kind of just take out the well, like for lack of better terms, like the meat from it, and as well as throw out the bones, which would be like this complex equations and economic jargon in order to tell people like, hey, because of the lack of consumption in which that we're seeing in the data here, this is going to cause a slowdown in the manufacturing sector, and it's going to have kind of like this domino effect. So being able to explain to people, or rather being able to be the bridge between this academic world where few people understand to everyone else is like where the junior economists exist. So people understand what's going on and also how they can prepare for it. So that's what that is.
So the prediction of the inflation, I'm not inflation, the what did you just say for 2020 is going to be a what?
A recession.
Recession. So they're predicting the recession in 2023. So we're not in a recession now.
No, not at all. Right now, it's just a little. I mean, a lot of people would say like, they just haven't called it yet. But according to the data, this is just kind of like a mini slowdown. And I did want to say is that although in previous terms they have called a recession after like after two periods of GDP not expanding, which has previously happened in this year. However, according to the BA, they said that that's not the only thing which they're going by. It's like a whole basket of variables in which they're focusing on, or for it to be unofficial. So not yet.
But is there a reason behind why they're not saying it's a recession yet, when we know there is a recession?
It could be for a couple of reasons. Primarily because they want people to go back to work, especially with like this, these past 2 years of people kind of just sitting at home, or either kind of like just collecting stimulus payments in which that were available, or it could be like they just don't want to scare the public, or yeah, I mean, I think that those are like the primary two reasons. Like,
yeah. Consumer confidence is important.
Exactly.
And this is a major spending time, and you can see that it has drawn back a lot.
Yes, tremendously.
So I always get a hard time. I always get a hard time about this question, but I think, I don't know why I think this is important, but I always ask people, where do they want to be in 10 years, or where do they want to be in 5 years? And I always get a lot of pushback about that question.
No comment.
I think it's an important question. As an economist, do you think that is an important question that people should be asking themselves?
Yes, most definitely, because I feel as if that in order for you to, in a sense, have some sense of purpose, and as well as build to where you want to be, even if you can't describe what role or job in which that you desire to have in society in like the next 10 years, I think that it's important to at least be able to understand how you like to feel, or what adjectives you would like to describe your future self in 5 to 10 years. Because in a sense, it allows for you to be intentional about the things in which that you do every day, and as well as build towards that. And plus, in my belief is that you kind of have to start at the beginning with the end in mind, because then you're able to reverse engineer where you want to be, so that guides your path. So, I mean, but then that's just my philosophy. Yeah.
This is a question that it that comes up a lot for me. Because they're listening to the Kanyes, and they're seeing the Jay-Z's, and they're seeing all of these people who are a billionaire one day, and then the next day was well, that was miscalculated, or this, that, and the other. How do you calculate net worth?
So, from what I know, the way how it's calculated is that whatever each that you have, well, once you pay all of your debt, and then whatever is your what am I trying to say? Basically, like what you have minus your debts. So the net of that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's after debts are paid and all of that stuff, and then that's kind of how you figure out what you're worth. Um, because I'm thinking about setting people up when they're thinking about making the will and making, planning, estate planning. You should make a will even if you have $10 in the bank.
I mean, that makes sense to me, especially because you don't want people arguing about your assets after your death, just causing confusion. Like, you know how it is.
Oh, 100%. I got a question. How does the Federal Reserve use monetary policy to stabilize the economy, and what tools does it have at its disposal, and how does it decide when and how to use them?
So the primary thing in which they do is that they use the federal funds rate, and then the way in which they do that is that they adjust it either down or up. And as we can see from what Jerome Powell has been doing at every Fed meeting this year, they have been adjusting it up. And then what this causes the banks to do is that basically what they do is that the federal funds rate is the amount in which that banks have to hold inside their institutions for whatever set period of time. During the pandemic, the federal funds rate, I think, was like 1-2% or something, like extremely low. So therefore, that made any type of loan in which that you could think of very easy to get. And then so that's also where like that whole phrase of like they say money is cheap or what have you. And then so what they do is that they use this in order to either constrict the ability for people to get into their money, or either they expand that power. But when they restrict it, which is something which they're doing now, we see kind of like this effect of where it's like new construction has been halted or slowed down. We also start to see layoffs because you just can't say gimme, gimme, gimme in a sense anymore, but you have to be like more cautious, strategic, because the money flow has been the whole point of them adjusting the federal funds rate is to either accelerate or decelerate how fast the money is going to flow. Right now, it's slowing intentionally. So those are the primary ways.
Okay, thank you.
What do you find hinders economically successful Black communities? Because I remember our communities when they weren't the best, but they were you nobody, we could have a rent party, you know.
Rent party.
You know what I mean? We had those kind of things that supported each other. So at this point, what is hindering those kind of solid uh, economical successful communities?
So I think that that particular issue, it's very layered in a sense because we can go back and start with like detrimental economic policies and which kind of hindered the Black community from building wealth, from from Black people being barred from wealth building tools such as government loans, and as well as the introduction of welfare as well, which also helped, and as well as some would argue also hindered our communities in a sense. And then we can also take it back to the fact that um, okay, so we have the 60s and the 70s, those two, and then another thing in which that we can take it back to is the fact that successful, thriving Black neighborhoods have historically been demolished or in some way ruined by those who are in power. And as well as when things were kind of stabilizing and building back up, it's like a whole generation of compasses were barred to um, jail cells. So I think that the primary thing that is stopping Black communities from becoming successful and thriving, I think it's like a combination of like just bad policies, bad, yeah, just bad policy. Because I think that at the end of the day, that historically our community has shown what we can do, and also we've done it before. But every time we said we get ahead, it's kind of like we're also not back down. And then even we can say even in today's times with like the black tax, especially like as college educated people, like when you're like the only one to make it from your family, it's kind of hard to build wealth and as well as expand that wealth because you kind of have to take care of everyone. So there's a lot of things that hinder that, but I think that the more in which that we all get on one accord and as well as we set the intention to do it, there's nothing that could stop us, since um, especially since now we have the power of social media and as well as rallying. Well, social media allows for us to get on one accord and as well as rally for the issues in which that we care about. So yeah, that's my yeah. So and so that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah. Um, what did the Inflation Reduction Act, how does that help our communities, the Black communities?
So with the Inflation Reduction Act, if I'm not mistaken, when I read through the bill, that primarily helped people who are concerned about climate change and things of that nature, because it more so funneled money to those who plan to for those who plan to invest in companies that will contribute to like the new clean energy revolution and things of that nature. But as far as particular provisions for people of color, um, I don't recall seeing anything that was for us. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I was asking because I keep getting I actually asked this at a Democratic meeting,
Mhm.
and I kind of got this. Well, it helped everybody, but I just wanted to specifically, if there was anything in there that actually helped the communities in general. So I'm glad to hear somebody say it.
Question, just to get back on the government. You guys were talking about it earlier. What is the role of the government in the economy, and how does fiscal policy affect economic growth and stability?
So the government's role in the economy is to ensure that things do not fall down. And then what they do is that basically they do this by not only making policies to ensure that funds are allocated appropriately, and as well as, excuse me. So they do this by ensuring the fact that funds are allocated appropriately, and as well as intervening if necessary. So, for example, what we saw um, during COVID with the Paycheck Protection Program, because they knew that the economy could possibly tank and hundreds of thousands could be without jobs, because since everybody's at home, there is um, no demand, no consumption, and especially those who worked at places which depended upon foot traffic, they knew that some very damaging effects were on the way. So therefore, they intervened and said, "Hey, we're going to offer this program to whereas this will prevent people from starving in a sense, and as well as enable business owners to sustain this period of like this period of like economic drought." So that's the government's role, is to ensure that things are, balanced.
How do you think they're doing? How do you think the government's doing so far within at least the last 2 to 5 years? With I guess with the economy and what's going on with the pandemic. Think they're
Considering
really here to help us or what? Like, seriously.
I would say, considering the circumstances, they have probably done the best that they could do, especially because nobody knew what COVID was. Because, when you see the news saying that people are just dying, or like people are like hospitalized for 2 weeks, so it's kind of like, since nobody really knows what this is, so you have no choice kind of to like subsidize people. But I guess that my primary critique would be the fact that now we are headed into this period of economic uncertainty because of the decisions that were made previously. So, although um although I understand doing things for like the greater good, but it's like, what good did it truly do? Because we saw the effects of what actually happened with the money. um billion-dollar corporations um, were getting $1 million small business loans, and then a lot of like the small businesses who actually needed the money could not access it. So it becomes like one of those things where they're doing okay, what they could do better. But I mean, that's just my opinion, like on that.
Yeah.
How about you all?
It kind of feels like that the New Deal, where they yes, it did great for a whole lot of people, but except us. We always seem to be at the. I always say when America has a cold, Black people have pneumonia.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
That's very true.
100%. No,
So
just
I want to ask you about money illusion and how it is affecting us right now, because I see these people who are seeing things that I'm not seeing.
Question, like, what do you mean about money illusion?
Yeah, clarify that.
There's this thing where people keep saying nothing is really changing around them, kind of because if it's something goes up 30 cents, you kind of really don't you don't really understand the impact of that 30 cent until a soda is now $4.
Okay.
They just have this illusion around things aren't really changing, even though they have significantly changed from the time we started COVID until now. And because it was so incremental and behind the scenes, you 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 don't see it until you're wondering why I don't have enough money to have groceries to the end of the month.
Yes. So as far as that, um, I I personally have not met anybody who has that illness in a sense, because everyone around me has noticed like an increase at the grocery store, an increase at the pump, an increase in rent, an increase in basically to live. Like, I mean, to go outside nowadays, especially here in Atlanta, like you're bound to spend $100. So, I mean, I'm not sure how people do not notice the changes, especially in prices. Like, I mean, like even in like your local coffee shop. The prices have just like it went from being $4 to like $6 for like the same size of coffee, and these days like you're probably getting less. So I'm not sure how they're not seeing these changes. Is probably because along with the pandemic as well, there was an increase in wages for some industries, and we also had like the pandemicpreneurs as well, who it was kind of like money became no issue because of the fact that it was so like easy to attain. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something in which that I could think of, because woo, here in Atlanta,
Yeah,
everything.
I'm finding that people because I live in Texas, so uh, their minimum wage was $7.25. So they're looking at uh, a McDonald's worker that's making 10.25 now, and saying, "Well, she's getting a lot of money, a lot more than what they were making before," and it's not. It's an illusion of a raise because everything else is so high.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly correct. It's kind of like how I was reading this article where basically it was um, where basically like they were following like this older couple, and then they were talking about when they first bought their house, it was probably like $30,000. Their salaries were like $10,000, and then their car was like 3,000 or something like that. But then it just really made me realize that when I converted all this stuff to like dollars today, that was actually the same amount in which that we would pay today. Well, like just a little more, but it's amazing to just see how things have transitioned, because it's kind of like how you said, just because they now have like a new wage of 10.25, but because everything is more expensive, it's like it's still not. because like even like I saw this other article where they were talking about how if you make $7.25 an hour now, you cannot afford to live by yourself. Like it's just impossible, especially if you live in major cities and even some rural places. So I do agree with that. Like
Well, just like you said, you did your research, you did your due diligence of the numbers, right? And it's I think they're keeping us down, keeping us at afloat, right? I watched this up come up some of your videos on Instagram, and it seemed like you have a hiccup on when to buy homes and when's a good time to buy a home. Why do you think it's only a good time to buy a home when things are lower or when things are more affordable? Why don't you push people buying homes when they can afford them or whenever? Like, because I never was like the type of person someone said, okay, I'm gonna wait till the housing market goes down. I'm gonna buy a house to buy a house because I don't want to rent. And plain and simple, because that's one of the things that keeps black people back, because they're renting. They're not buying homes. They're not buying assets. Black people, it seem like they're scared to buy homes, and it seems like every time I turn around, someone's saying, "Don't buy a home. It's not a good time." And I'm like, "You sure? You said that 3 months ago. Then you said that another 3 months ago. Can I buy a freaking home?" Like, so like, every time I hear someone say it's not a good time to buy a home, I kind of get upset because I did it on my own whenever I wanted. I didn't care, if it was down, up. I just bought a house, and I've been living great ever since. You know what I'm saying? I got tenants. Luckily, I got
But
great
with,
tenants, and I collect money. I don't even have to go to work if I don't want to. You understand what I'm saying? So we
yeah,
need to get that mentality, to these people. We need people to buy homes. We need people to change that mentality. I just don't like when people say don't buy a home. It kind of like freaks me out. Maybe it's a pet peeve of mine. It's like we need to buy property. We need to buy homes. Yes, now, later, next month, whenever. You know,
yeah,
when is the optimal time to buy homes?
I don't like that question. That's
But
what I'm
I
saying.
do. I
No,
do because I understand that interest rates and these subprime mortgages. Because I'm in Texas,
keep
I
renting,
watch
keep renting, and
people
being broke.
lose. I watch people lose everything in that mortgage bubble.
I mean, they gotta know. They gotta have. Of course, they gotta follow the guidelines and have the money set up to not fail. I get that, but That's what research is, and that's what education is. But don't ever say don't buy a home now. You should be buying homes whenever.
Well,
There's
I
no
think
opportune time to buy a home. You should buy a home. There's so many deals and things. You can buy a home and build it up. You can buy a home for $20,000. You go to the government and get a broken down home. You can do it. There's a lot of things to get a home. It's not just one going through the bank. It's not just that. It's a lot of ways to get a home.
okay, settle the argument.
People got to educate themselves and get a home. Get some property. Plain and simple.
okay. So to address the first point, actually in my last live video, someone actually asked me the same thing, and I said that decision is totally up to you. But I did say that some markets favor those who have a higher cash down payment, and some markets favor those who probably cannot afford to put so much down. And then so with that being said, that decision is totally up to you. However, the best time to have bought a home as of now, according to like the historical data, was in 2020. And then that's like after the pandemic hit, because like that's when all of the excuse me, because like that's like when the interest rates were dropping, and as well as home prices as well. But then when you had this environment of where everybody could just get a loan, and when people started really catching on to like, okay, we have like low interest rates, and as well as a hot housing market, like that's when you have this surge in home value appreciation. Now, the reason why I previously said that, you know, I think about 2, 3 months ago that it was not a good environment to buy a home is because, according to the data, the house which that we were seeing then were the highs in which they had been in years. So it's kind of like, would you rather overpay for something in which that's going to inevitably increase in value? I'm sorry, decrease in value, especially since, um, especially like when something has gone up. We had such as like in Atlanta and Miami, where it's like home prices were appreciating at like 20% over 1 to 1.5 years. So it's kind of like, okay, if it's gonna go up that fast, it's also gonna come down fast too. So would you rather have, yes, you have a low interest rate, but you essentially paying like $200,000 extra or $50,000 extra versus if you had to just wait it, especially for things to come down. Yes, you may not get like the highest. I'm sorry, like the lowest interest rate, but then that's also a market that favors the cash buyer or those who have like um, higher cash down payments. So that's why I said it just depends on
No, I
which.
get it. I get it because
Yeah.
no, I get it. I get it, but because like, but I say if you're really into you're an economist, so you're numbers. I love numbers myself too. I love math. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but if you really study or follow people that that's all they do is buy homes or in that market, they're telling us to buy no matter what. And if you and this of course it depends on who you are. I get it, but you have to have. They also tell you, hey, you got to have this, and this in order. You know what I mean? And if you don't, you know what I mean. Don't buy. But then
Well,
they also say there's various ways to buy property. You know what I mean? You can fixer-uppers, there's government programs, this programs, there's military programs, there's so many things you can do. You can join forces, the LLC, and me, you, and SP can buy a house and then stop buying more and more property and buy a
yeah,
bigger
but
building. There's
you're
so many things
thinking.
you can do.
I think you're focusing more on investment, not a single family dwelling where you
Yeah,
just there
yeah.
with your
I'm thinking about
family.
family wealth. I'm thinking about
Because
wealth. Yeah, I'm not thinking about buying.
I have a cousin who bought during the housing bubble, and she paid $180,000 for her house that's now worth 110.
Yeah,
And
but
so,
SP. We're talking about
but
building family wealth.
we're talking
Not
about
one person buying
investment.
a house and
We're
just
just
hanging out.
talking about buying homes for just a single family dwelling.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about family wealth. I'm talking about building wealth. We're talking about getting black people out of this crisis. We're talking about black
I
people
know.
not being poor anymore, not being on welfare and all this crap.
How do
If they follow certain guidelines and they buy property, you can buy property without even seeing it. You know that? You can buy property without even looking at it and touching it.
you
And you know what I mean? In other cities and other states. And be
Yeah.
rich. It's just a lot,
Uh-huh.
it's just a lot of things that people don't know about because they don't have the knowledge or they don't want to research it. That's all. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. So there's never a bad time to buy a home. That's why I always preach. It's never a bad time to buy a home. And I'm not talking about single family homes. You can live on the prairie somewhere with your family and your dog. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about that.
So,
Eventually you can get to that once you get that family build,
how,
get a lot of homes and build that capital, that wealth, and then you go buy your dream home. You can probably even build it back at that point once you get a couple of properties.
so speaking of wealth, how do you develop even begin to think about wealth strategies, as especially when you're just starting out? You're somebody who never knew anything about any of this. You work in a medium income. You not the $100,000 range. You're more like 40 to $50,000 a year, and you're just trying to figure it out where you can leave your family in a better situation than what you started in.
So I would say the number one thing, or at least the way in which I do it, is that it starts with your mindset. Is you basically saying that you can do it, and then and then your actions are gonna soon align with what you are believing within. And a second thing in which that someone should do is, I highly recommend this book to anybody, is reading The Automatic Millionaire. And then so what the book basically breaks down is what to do with like well, so not only does it break down like different wealth strategies and as well as how to accumulate it, but as well as it breaks down how should you handle like your paycheck in any form, and also
Mhm.
investments mean what. And then to me, it just really just, I mean, to me, it just kind of like summarizes like all of the wealth books in which that you could think of, from like Common Sense Investing, Learn to Return, and it just patches everything up so perfectly to where
Mhm.
you're 18 years old, 27, 45, or what have you, and you're new to building wealth, that will start you on the right track. So
How important is life insurance for building wealth?
very important, very important. As a matter of fact, my mom always says that she judges people who do not have it, because that means that you don't care about your kids or your family. Because it's like you are not worried about not only leaving them thing well, like she says that, like, not only do you not care about ensuring the fact that they are able to carry on without you, whether it's like settling debts or even just making the mourning process a bit easier, but as well as like you don't care anything about legacy. And then that's the most important thing. So it's very important, especially if you know the real principles, like that's just, I mean, that's just something that
Mhm.
comes with that type of alignment. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I always talk about things from a level of the people who surround me. You know, I grew up in the hood, and a lot of these financial questions weren't even thought of, nonetheless asked. So even something as simple as an emergency fund, figuring out even how to develop and maintain an emergency fund is beyond some people. How would you suggest somebody who's kind of, it's tough. It's normally a paycheck to paycheck kind of thing, but you can have 30, $40 left at the end of the month extra if you um, budget well. So how would you uh, suggest somebody in that level of finances develop and maintain some sort of emergency fund where you're just not thrown to the wolves if something goes wrong?
So the first thing I would tell them to do, as I tell family members and as well as people who I consult with, especially on like their personal finances, is to go on my website and purchase, well, not purchase, but like download my personal budgeting tool. And then so this allows for you to not only input your bills in which that you plan to pay for the pay period, and the way in which it's set up is that it gives you 6 pay periods worth of forecasting how your disposable income will look, but as well as it allows for you to see what you have to pay and also what you have left in order to, um, in a sense, like go play with. So
Mhm.
first, that's the first step in which I would tell them to do. First, lay out your finances so you can really understand where your money is going, and also so you can see it. Because to me, that does something to your mind where you're just like, okay, I have this left after taking care of business or what have you. The second thing in which that I will say is practice putting at least a third of that to the side as just as a way to build a habit. Because say if you only have $30 left to save, if you consciously always put away that $10 after about, I would say 3-4 pay periods, it becomes second nature. Whereas like you won't see it. And then the rest of that, well, the third step of that, I will also ask them if they have the capacity to get a job. Because honestly, I feel as if that you can't really budget yourself out of poverty. You kind of have to first the put in the labor hours, and then you expand into passive income ventures and as well as vehicles in order for you to create wealth as well. So I would ask them, do you have the capacity to work another job so you can expand your income, or even suggest that they scale up in order to widen your disposable income gap. Um, and so like those would be like the first three steps in which I would suggest. And then after those are done, then that's what we expand into, okay, um, can you monetize something like a hobby or something in which that you do, to where as you're able to expand what you have, so you can also save more and as well as have more to um, excuse me, save more and as well as like have more to dispose of and other things. So those are my steps.
So the second job thing is like I've read plenty of articles, or I know people. I've had second jobs, like, so I just know people that overwork themselves and they still can't get out of debt, or they still can't save the money. It might just be a mind thing, or just, you know, the debt thing, or whatever it is. I don't know what's going on. Maybe they just get more money and they spend more money. But passive income versus a second job, that's a conversation with my circle. You know, do you get a second job, another 20-hour job, or do you find something you can do on the side and spend those hours strengthening in that skill? You know, say if I'm an artist, okay, I draw, maybe I can do a t-shirt line, maybe I could I don't know, draw pictures and or paint and sell them. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
when you have someone work that one job and concentrate on their a career, something passive income to eventually hopefully get successful at that, because there's so many successful stories like in that nature, uh so they can fire their boss and then go and then do what they always love. When you have somebody chase their love instead of like going back to work and hating Mondays.
I think part of the problem with that is uh, I can't eat development. So if your need is immediate, you can't wait till you develop your skill for a passive income. You kind of have to do what you need to do. It's tiresome being poor.
I mean, I mean, so so I agree with both of you, but then my perspective is more so, okay, if you only have $30 to $40 left after, it's kind of like, you have to spend money to make money in a sense, and as well as like not only does that take money as the investment in order to build up to your dreams and fire your boss, but that also requires another cost, which is time. So yes, you could go that path, but also, as SB said, bills are also due, the first of every month. So I would say it really depends upon, like, what your talent is. Like, is it something in which that you can just, you know, do easily and then just post it onto Instagram, and then whereas people are able to tip you or go on YouTube or something like that, or will it require for you to buy materials bit by bit? So it just depends. Like, like what is your vehicle? Is it going to take you longer if you do art or t-shirts, especially for like, to buy like, will they have like the screen printers or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, is it just easy? So
No, I get it. I've been poor before, and I'm not saying I'm not rich, but I've been in that state that I'm like living check to check, penny to penny.
mhm.
And it's a mindset first. You have to you have to have the mindset to get out of debt, or to make more money, to get the second job, or to develop passive income, to do whatever, to get yourself out of this crisis that you're in, and or to, if family's not helping, and you got to do it yourself, you got to have that mentality, you got to have that drive. There's a lot of things to it. You just can't magically wave a wand and play the lottery, and hope to win. You got to have a drive. You got to have that ambition. You got to have some type of fire under you, man. Like the people that are really rich and successful, I mean, they're not lazy. Like that's plain and simple. There's people that's always poor and wondering why they're poor, because you ain't doing nothing else but being poor and complaining about being poor. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, and I 100% agree with that. It's like life is about choices. And so you choose what your destiny is going to be. And like you say, like if you choose to sit down and just complain about everything and about why the world is against you, then the world is going to always be against you. But if you actually make the conscious decision to say, hey, this is not going to stop me. And yes, I have these excuses in which I could rely on, but I'm deciding to move forward regardless, then that's how the world's going to treat you.
So you have family, right? I have family that like I do this stuff for free. I try to teach them about budgeting. Try to teach them about passive income. I try to teach them about anything that will help them, not complain. Let's put it that way, right? But they don't listen to me. They don't. They just don't. Family and friends, they just don't. All right. So what do you do to prevent that? Do your family and friends listen to you because based on your position, or are they just as mute as some of my family and friends that they say they want something, but they don't actually do the work? You're looking for handouts.
So it's like a 50-50 thing. But one thing I notice about Black folks, us, is that if we don't see how the money is being spent, whether you have like some type of like lifestyle or you wear clothes or what have you, it's like we're less likely to like
follow.
Follow. But and the reason why I say this is because I feel as if I've always had like the same mindset through my 20s, but things really didn't start coming until after grad school, and then for my previous job, I had to travel a lot. So because people tend to attach travel with like some type of, I guess like you could say financial success, not knowing it's coming from my employer, then they're just like, oh my goodness, how did you do it? Tell me. Or like, can you like give me some wisdom? I'm like, okay, I've always had this mentality, but now because you see it, or because I'm deciding to videotape it, is some type of it holds weight. But and also in that regard, I usually just I try not to, I guess, push my belief systems on them harshly, because I notice that they tend to stray away. So I let them come and ask me, especially when they get curious enough.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't pressure anybody. I think when I first started to wake up, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
I always had a conscious mind to have money or make money. I was always a hustler. I was the drug dealer. I was the dude that did crimes. I was people rob. I did the robbing. I did all that stuff. But I got out. But I was at the second. But on the second part of that, on the yin and the yang, I was always in school getting straight A's, and people just thought I was like a genius or something. So like nobody knew I was that person in the streets doing that dumb stuff, trying to be cool and wear the leather jacket like Fonzie. So you know what I'm saying? But now like it's it's all about showing and proving. You know what I'm saying? Like I can talk to them blue in the face, but if I don't do these actual things, like wear nice clothes, have homes and numerous homes, numerous properties, and my family might not respect that. You know what I'm saying? I could talk. They'll be like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. But yeah, once I have it, they're like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, I was telling you last week. You wasn't like, so they got to see it. They got to see the flash. I follow EYL, Earn Your Leisure, and all those guys, 19 Keys. And there's a lot of free information from these guys. So they got various teams. They got a housing team. They got this team, this person that can help you. So, but at the same time, I seen that movement, go up and up and up. I seen them have a podcast with their free phone, and now they're making millions of dollars with Steve Harvey and whoever, right? But they also say the same thing you're saying. Black people got to see it. So a lot of them, they still dress fly. They dress flyer now. They got the watches now. They got and now people are like, oh, now they want to listen to them. But 2 years ago, they wasn't listening to them, and they have the same speech, the same knowledge.
So, question. I have a question that's been kind of rattling around. It's been floating around for a while, and it's that big question of reparations.
Okay.
Lord.
Is that even doable? It first you have to have the political will, but is it even doable right now?
So, okay. As of right now, with this current administration, I'm going to say no, but it probably is possible in states because I'm not. Okay, so first I'm going to tackle the Joe Biden administration. So I'm not sure if you all remember, but when Ice Cube and the likes, they gathered up a group of Black academics, economists, and they all created I think it was called the Platinum Plan, and it was this beautiful plan where it was this is what you should do to empower our communities because this is going to basically repair not only the financial wounds, but the psychological wounds in order for us to contribute to our fullest capacity in this country, and as well as for you to say sorry in a sense. However, the Biden administration did not give those people the platform to even speak to him. However, the Trump administration did. And I would argue to say is because Trump is about, hey, let's make a deal. Obviously, we know what we did in the past. And according to economics, one of the famous economists said that the economics of racism is basically you having an all-star team, which is America, but yet you're only using 3 out of the 7-star players in which that you need. So therefore, if I understand this concept, let's make a deal. But with the Biden administration, it's kind of no, we're not going to listen to you all at all. Now, the reason why I say that it's probably possible on the state level is because I'm not sure if you all heard about California's reparations bill that has been proposed by Gavin Newsom, whereas each, I'm not sure if they have to be a native Black person or just someone of African descent, but they propose to give those individuals $223,000 each.
I heard.
So I would say that since states do have the power to allocate all of the extra funds in which they have appropriately, they could do that. But I would say under this current administration, it's just too many other priorities that are superseding what Black people desire, which is things involving clean energy, especially because the energy crisis, caused by the energy crisis from the war in Ukraine, and as well as other social issues, to whereas right now they're just Black people would just be outraged on social media, but then right now they'll be fine unless we actually step into places of power and are advocating for policies saying that, hey, we need reparations because we were done wrong. It's not fair the fact that you have foreign nationals who come to this country and are given lump sums of money, but yet Black people who are native born who have clearly been brought out of wealth creation kind of just have to deal with it. So that's my answer on that.
Okay, so the push is don't vote.
Oh no, not at all.
I know
No.
there's there's this push to
Oh no.
or or to vote pull away from the Democratic Party in general.
I think Black people should vote on the party who has their interests at
Exactly.
the time at heart. And I advocate for for us to become independents because we don't want to just be blindly loyal to a party that's just going to, in a sense, just tell us what we want to hear during um, during their run, but yet when it actually comes time to make change, it's kind of like we're ignored or just
Mhm.
refuse to listen to things in which that we're demanding. The same way in which that we have other interest groups who have who have rallied to gain rights, and like we see it and then like we see this every day. Black people also should make the same demands, and then that doesn't mean that you are loyal to a particular party.
Mhm.
I mean, Biden ran off the platform of reparations. He mentioned that to the black voters. He's not doing anything with reparations since he's been in office. I mean, like
Mhm.
I agree with you. I mean, black people should just vote who they should, who's better for the community or their community or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they should be independent. You know what I mean? They shouldn't be a party. If it's maybe a black party, maybe I don't know, but just independent. You know what I mean? I get it. Like they should just vote for what's right. You know what I mean? Like I voted for what's right. I always vote for who's better. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Uh, I would never say don't vote, but I would, just vote for who's better for us or who you think is going to be better for us. Hopefully, um, we haven't had any justice or any type of doesn't matter who's been in office. Even when Obama was in office, I mean, come on, like nothing happened. Like I don't care what I don't know why people keep saying yes, he was a black. I get it. We loved him. He was cool. So was Clinton. You know what I'm saying? But like nothing's been done. Nothing's changed. We're still like minimum wage is still low in Texas or whatever. Like Boston is still like racism. Nothing's happening. Like I mean, on who we vote for. Like you said, we have to get in power. We have to change our mindset to get money, to get the bag. Is that what the kids said? Get the bag. Go get the bag. But when you get the bag, do something, do right with it. Pass the bag on to and make sure the bag is there when you die. And then when your kid dies, you got that bag. That same bag accumulates more money for your kid's kid. You know what I mean? Like we gotta do that. We gotta make money. We gotta stop making excuses. We gotta make our own money. And when we make our own money, we get in power. Because if I'm a billionaire, you would know my name.
Yeah. And
That's all I'm saying. And I could be a nobody. And I could just be selling freaking phones or something or cups. But if I made $1 billion, you guys would know my name. And then people would be like, hey, Marquis, what's up, hey? Everybody would love me. Politicians, everybody. Like, you know what I mean? Let's get that money. Let's get that bag. Get our mindset right. Get that bag. Get that money.
yeah, I completely agree. And I think that that's like one of the primary problems is the fact that we don't understand how to get power in order to make those type of moves. Um, I remember reading in Powernomics, and Dr. Claude Anderson was saying that there are 7 levels of power in which that Black people must penetrate, in a sense, in order to be able to get laws such as like enabling reparations to be passed and things like that of that nature. And the primary thing in which that he also emphasized in that book, which goes back to like a previous question in which that you all asked me early on, was like, like, what are some things in which that are preventing Black communities from thriving? And it's primarily because of we lack industry. Like, other than excelling in entertainment and sports, Black people can't really say that we manufacture anything. Because like if you think about it, each group has like this specialization, but yet with us, it's kind of like yes, we are the curators of culture, and as well as the figureheads of sports, everything that's visible, but yet we do not control anything that's invisible, which is everything in which that is empowering our world, from the electric company to the desk to the computer. It's like, yes, we may have had a hand in inventing it, such as like how a black man invented the internet, but yet do we actually own things in which that people cannot live or do without?
Yep.
So,
100%. 100%.
Exactly.
Hit it right on the head.
So, what are some of the trusted apps or services that you would recommend for educational purposes as far as finance?
as far as finance, well, the apps in which I use every day, um, not not necessarily education, because I get because as far as finance goes, I get my financial education from books and as well as YouTube and as well as talking to my mentors and things like that. But as far as good financial apps that I highly recommend would be the Digit app, because it saves autonomously for you. And so that comes in handy because you can also funnel it to if you have a goal to go on vacation, if you just want to have like an emergency fund, or say if you even want to funnel it to like an ETF. So you can do that. I would also highly recommend Acorns because you can do the same thing, except for this is going to be solely for investments. And so you can pick and choose if you want to invest $20 to $1,000 a week or whatever in which that you desire. But those are going to be my top two. Oh, and Robinhood is also good as well.
I was gonna say Robinhood's better than Acorn. I remember starting off with Acorn because I was like promoting it big time. Like it's like kind of more for, I guess, for beginners and for like maybe youngsters, I would say. But if you really know how to invest and trade, use Robinhood. It's less cost on your pockets because Acorn does charge. So I've done my research and I started with it and I said, what am I using this for? And I can be using this and blah blah blah. So so Robinhood's probably better.
Yeah.
So I always this is a question I have because I live in Texas. Oil and gas is big in Texas, and for me, I have always felt like oil and gas is this big welfare state. It is the amount of subsidies that they get as $1 billion industry is mind blowing to me. Uh, my question is basically the necessities of those subsidies for companies that have um, $1 billion economical uh, wins every single year. What is the purpose of those kind of subsidies?
So as far as oil and gas goes, is that the reason why they subsidize that particular sector so much is because of how volatile it is to things just kind of going awry. And what I mean by that is like it takes millions of dollars in order to maintain the upkeep of these facilities and to ensure the fact that the public is safe from like any type of explosions that may happen, or even to ensure the fact that everything is working and runs well. Because like if things are underfunded, I mean, although they do make a ton of revenue, I mean, if things are underfunded, then you could have a situation to whereas it's like it becomes like a public health emergency, and none of us would want that to happen.
Okay.
And then it's also honestly because it's a major well, what is our primary resource, and also because you have lots of lobbying by those groups in order to um, support, well, in a sense, to overly support that industry because of how critical they are to the way in which we operate. Because like we require fuel for everything from Amazon deliveries, going to the store. So yeah, that's fine.
When when you think about uh the I can see the decline even now. Um, what is the forecast for Black economic growth o- over the next 10 to 15 years?
So I have not looked at forecasts that particularly hone in on Black people per se, but I do. But as far as population numbers, I do know that we are slated to grow, and in a sense, if I'm not mistaken, we are the second. We are the second fastest growing minority group based upon population behind Hispanic Latinos. Um, so I would say based upon the population and depending upon if these well then like and then depending upon like if the newcomers aid in the economy that can add to our production um, numbers as Black people. But as far as looking at the overall picture, I have not done that research as of yet. But that's something which I'll definitely look into.
Do you find
Cool.
it easier for like I would say like a 20-year-old nowadays, um, and not me as 20 like 20 years ago, easier for them to I guess accumulate more income because of
Oh,
social media and stuff like that and things of that thing, different things like that?
yes, of course. Because it's like they have like the internet basically, like I mean, you all know, like the world is at your fingertips, like so you have tons of access. And so it becomes like one of those things where well the way in which I understood it is that especially when I talk to people like my parents or what have you, it's like your opportunities were basically your neighborhood unless you were exposed to something more. But social media allows for young people to find out about job opportunities outside of their immediate neighborhood to whereas they can easily access through the bus line or Ubers for the sense, right? Um,
Mhm.
and the fact that they can also make money on social media as well. Like anybody can become like, I mean, you become like your wildest dreams from if you want to be a rapper, a singer, a model. I mean, anything is possible. Whereas like back then, like you wanted to do these things, like you just had to, in a sense, be in the right circles or suddenly be seen by somebody who could actually get you through the door. But now social
Mhm.
media is the door and everybody can showcase who they are. So I would
So
say that.
there's an optimistic glow for the future of Black people. I mean, that's what that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, there's so many more opportunities to make money. So with the population increasing, like you said, with Black people in general, I can see us, you know, striving and getting in better doors, opening better doors or getting in better doors, or having better opportunity to make those decisions in the near future.
Yes, most definitely. I definitely see that. And I think it's also because, I mean, like you said, with the exposure to social media, it's like you, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But then one thing which I did want to say is that, like, with the exposure to social media, like the tools in which that people couldn't access, like when you were 20 years old are like at your fingertips, whether that comes to like um, researching things on like, if you're having a bad day, um, and especially like, resources like when it comes to mental health. So I think that because now we have, in a sense, more access to resources, not just opportunities as well, I think that the world is literally those younger Black people coming up, the world is their oyster. And they see that. And I love that. So
You mentioned a spreadsheet earlier on your site. What other tools do you have to I guess to help people, I guess, get out of debt, get on the right path, maybe have some motivation of that sort?
So the other tools in which that I recommend to people if they don't necessarily just want to like fill out the spreadsheet themselves is that I also do personal finance consulting as well. And then so what I do is that I charge people $50 a month. And then so that includes 1 hour of weekly budget review, and as well as you can text me and call me whenever in which that you want to, of course, after 6 o'clock, like when I get off work on weekdays. And then to whereas you're able to consult with me and stay in contact with me about things regarding your financial decisions. Um, and so that's the primary thing. And then that's one thing which I noticed that a lot of people have been opting for instead of just doing it themselves. They rather just have someone who's kind of like their on-call mentor. So
Yeah, because I think mentors are new for a lot of people. Find yeah, it
Mhm.
is. It,
No, yeah, you're
I
right.
just I talked to a life coach recently, and even that is something I'm like, a life coach. What the hell is wrong with people? But after I talked and understood exactly what it did and how much support that is, for people who don't because everything is so digital now that we don't always have that human contact, and to have somebody that supports you and understands where you're at personally is a big thing. So I think that I might even be calling you.
okay.
But see, here's the thing: like developing a program like you have, that's the type of stuff that I tell SP and others that you can do yourself, or I can do myself, and I am going to do myself. Like once we start writing books and writing pamphlets, so we can also do not like what you do, but whatever our expertise is in. Like mine might be hip hop or whatever it is, or art or whatever it is, right? Um, do I know about finance? Yes, I really do, and I do know what I do know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm saying. If I don't, I research it and I study it.
Mhm.
And usually I'm the guinea pig, and then I say, okay, don't do that. You know what I mean? Because I want to teach people. I want to what I'm saying? I want to give people the knowledge so they won't make these mistakes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not making mistakes, but you know what I mean? But I'm just, I've done in the past, and I know what to do, what not to do. And you know what I'm saying? And I do so much research and stuff like that. I know people can put these programs together like yourself and be a mentor, a peer-to-peer mentor. And it could be 50, it could be 25, it could be $10 a month, but that adds up, and eventually you probably can't quit your job, or you can just have that passive income accumulate and just make so much money off that. You could be making more money off that than your regular job. You probably are. You might not, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So for somebody who's growing up and they happen to run by this video and see you and want to do what you do,
Mhm.
what is some advice you would give them in order to become an economist and understand the role that an economist plays in the world?
So I would say number one, it starts with your mindset is that remember that this is a field that is dominated by people who do not look like you. So you have to have thick skin, but regardless of what they say, always believe in yourself and know that regardless of who may try to stop you, that nothing nor anyone can stop anything that God has ordained for you doing, especially to be in these places. Um, well, rather, like, it's the reason why you have promoted. Well, is the reason why you have been promoted to be in these spaces in which that God has placed you in. Number two is make sure that when you are in college, do not party as much. Have a good time.
Not
Um,
gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
right,
But go
right.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Have a good time and make sure that you keep like your grades up. So you can go to grad school, which will give you more edge into not only getting the job you want, or say if you want to go to like your PhD program, and make sure that you don't stop at calculus one when it comes to college math, so they won't give you a hard time with that as well. And thirdly, make sure that you network, because your peers are going to be your segue to your job, and as well as your overall network, and also like your peers determine how far you go and also what rooms in which that you can touch. So be open, be teachable, be kind, because I noticed that although you can have all the technical skills in the world, and yes, that is very important, you do have to be twice as good in order to be considered. But you can have all the technical skills in the world, but if you are not likable, you're not going to go far. So be
100%.
don't. I mean, like it may be easy to, in a sense, crap on people, but don't do it. It's not worth it. So
I was just reading I actually asked a guy. He was talking about African African American independence and focusing on uh, Black people who were born in America. And I keep trying to explain, if you just close everybody off in the world, who you gonna trade with? Who you gonna who are you gonna actually, because we don't manufacture anything. So where you gonna get the steel to build this community, or the wood? We don't even own cotton fields no more. What you how you gonna get dressed in the morning? I think people are living in this bubble of protectionism without thinking outside the box, because there's a certain amount of protection you have to have, but you also have to be inclusive in order to actually function in a global economy, which is the economy that we're in.
yes, I 100% agree with that. That reminds me of I'm not sure if you all watched Killer Mike's show. I think it was on Netflix. Whereas
Oh yeah, that was a great show. I forget what the name of it was. I still watch this. Is it still on there? I
I
loved
think
it.
it is. I think it
He did
is.
experiments of, like, having his own town and his own, from ground up. Like, he, at his own, build his own religion. Like, it's incredible. Let me see if I can find it while you talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but in his documentary, I mean, but in like his I guess you can call it like a docu series in a sense. But
Mhm.
um uh, every day he was trying to like use things that were just only made by like Black people, to the point I mean, to the point where it's like, because no automobile manufacturers are made by Black people, he had to ride a bike one day to get from one place to another. But then that
Mhm.
just further shows how limited we are in the fact that we, unfortunately, right now, we are not industrious. But I'm pretty sure in the future we will, especially like um, with Black people just being sick and tired of not, um, in a sense, like having access to wealth vehicles, and as well as being barred out. So we're creating our own opportunities. So yeah.
It was called Trigger Warning. It's called Trigger Warning with Killer Mike. I forget how many episodes, but I think the first episode was called Living Black, And looking at that, and yeah, it was amazing because he really couldn't do it. He had to sleep on the bench because no one owned hotels where he was at or whatever, you know what I mean? So like I loved it. Like he had to ride a bike that was made black or by somebody black. He had to only could eat from somebody growing black food, growing food from black hands and cooking. So it was amazing. Like he couldn't eat with his partner that from Running Jews. They went to a restaurant. He couldn't eat because it was soul food, but it wasn't. He didn't know where it came from, so it wasn't a black owned store. So yeah, stuff like that. Like it gives you an example of like, yes, we need to own things. Like he was making. I'm surprised that they kind of like buried that under the rug. A lot of people don't know about that. People should be talking about that he should keep doing them. I don't know. I don't. That was an amazing show. SP, is highly recommended. For everybody, for us to keep promoting it. That show
My
happened in
my
2019.
last question for you is, knowing the where we're at now and the climate that we're heading into in 2023, what advice would you give right now for people to prepare for what's coming?
I would say definitely cut out all unnecessary expenses, whether that is you just holding on to some type of subscription service in which that you truly don't use or what you truly don't need. I would also say right now is the time to save aggressively. And aside from paying down credit cards, because I'm not sure if people know, but when interest rates increase per the Fed, so does your interest rates on your credit card, which means that the money in which that you decide to borrow from your card issuer is now more expensive. So therefore, it's better for you to pay things off now before you're in an environment to whereas, God forbid, you lose your source of income or your income is slowed, depending upon your employment situation, and it becomes harder to um, pay off bills. And especially like you own your own business, clients tend to pay late. And so you don't want to be in a situation where as you have to go borrow lots of money in between and you're paying more than what you need to. So, and as well as I would say, work on that passive income stream or picking up like something within like the gig economy so you'll have that cash pile to pull from. But if you are already financially stable and secure, this would be a great time for you to plan to check like the USA's HUD app for foreclosures and even like with new builds, so you can plan to expand out your investment portfolio because during very economic times, it kind of just started giving stuff away. So be on the lookout and use all your resources. So,
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been enlightening. I took a lot of gems from this. My notes are full.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. It has been a pleasure. You all are great.
I hope you'll come back again, especially because we kind of know what's coming and people are going to be, they're going to be a little lost and they're going to be a little scared, and you are a balm to the spirit. Just hearing you talk has made me more optimistic than I was when I started. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you so much. And I'm going to put all of her information in the description, especially her critical budgeting tool, because I downloaded it earlier. I was looking through it. And I am going to use it because it made so much sense to me and it was so easy and functional to use. So that is an awesome tool to use. I'm going to put everything in the description that she talked about, from Powernomics to automatic uh automatic what is it?
Automatic Millionaire.
Automatic Millionaire. I don't know what I wrote. Put it in print. Automatic Millionaire. I put all the descriptions down and I'll put it all in the descriptions. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please go and check her out on Instagram. What do you have coming up?
So actually, I plan to release my first ebook in January, and it's called Be Your Own Consultant, which is a 10-step guide to empower your business and as well as your personal life as well. And so what it basically does is that it gives you the different tools in which that we as consultants use in order to um, make these different governments and as well as and as well as these Fortune 500 companies millions of dollars. So it's that I'm just gonna again use my word like democratize that particular tool set and make it accessible for people who necessarily don't have the funds to pay a consultant $400 an hour, but you can like literally do this stuff yourself and have the same results. So that's what I have coming up next. And hopefully when I come back, I can have the answer to your question about what is Black people's economic empowerment in the next 10 to 15 years too.
Oh, cool. And can you give everybody your social media ads so they can look you up and your website?
Yes. So my social media at is going to be the Junior Economist. Just like right here. Well, like on this side.
Yeah,
right. Like with no spaces. And it's the same thing on Instagram and as well as Twitter. And also my website is this also with no spaces.com. So you can hit me up on there.
Guyesha, it was a pleasure and an honor to speak with you. I will be, I wouldn't mind picking your brain more, and I know I'm going to continue to, and hopefully you can do the same with me, because I'm one of those people that just love to think and love to talk about finance, man, and I just love to help people. I mean, yeah, I'm going to start accumulating, funds with, with this passive income thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to keep promoting it. And I'm gonna right now we're doing SP doing a lot of free stuff. We do a lot of free stuff, but at the same time, we're gonna eventually put it in those pamphlets, put it in those books, put it in those ebooks, and start doing the same thing you're doing, like everyone else should be doing, and getting money and getting that bag. So appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Marquis, what you got coming up?
We got this podcast, man. We just gotta talk about this podcast, man. It's the formula, man. We gonna promote this one over and over again. I got the THAT podcast. It's called the Hip Hop Connoisseur Podcast. I listen to a lot of hip hop, and I listen to she joins me as well as SP. We break down albums, sometimes with artists, sometimes with producers. Just sometimes it might be your favorite Stevie Wonder album. We'll break that down, song by song, and really get into it, man. We love music. I love music, and it's just something I do and I'm passionate about. So I'm writing books. I have my first book either coming out this month or next month. This publisher's gonna get on my nerves, but anyway. But I got various books already on the way. I got an economic book coming out too, a financial book coming out too. So, I was looking forward to this conversation too. So thank you again.
Thank
you. Everybody just remember, hip hop is not just music; it's a culture, mind, body, and spirit. And I hope to have more guests like this, because if we heal our hip hop community, there's no telling how far we can go. We're already worldwide. It's time to own it.
Yes.
Very true.
All right. This is the formula. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you all.